Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to my first episode of Ranking Discographies. So as the title suggests, what I'll be doing in this particular segment is looking at a band's entire discography, all of their albums, and ranking them in order from my least favorite to most favorite. I don't like to use the words worst to best because worst to me it kind of has negative connotations and some people may disagree, and also because I think it's subjective anyway. So on that note, when I'm ranking these albums, I'm not saying take my word as the law, like everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So remember, it's simply my opinion. And having said that, if you disagree, that's fine. Let me know why. It's interesting to generate some discussion, and it would be kind of boring if we all felt the same way about things. So yes, just to let you know, it's my list, and we will get into today's episode. So the band I'm talking about, the band in question is Dark Funeral. That's where I'm up to in my CD collection. This is the first band where I have the entire discography. So 6 full-length albums, I'm going to talk about them. The ranking will exclude EPs, mini albums, and live albums, some of which I own. But at the same time, because I'm going through the alphabetical order of my collection, it's doubling up as a Ranking Discographies and collection video. So I will be showing albums which are not full-length, but only full length will be included in the ranking. Anyway, enough babble, we'll just get straight into it. So, of course, Dark Funeral need no introduction. Very well established band in the Swedish black metal scene, and in terms of black metal in general, they're one of the big hitters in the genre, I would say. I've been a fan of them since pretty much the beginning, the early days. It was around, I think, 95, 96. At that stage, I was already listening to bands like Immortal and Emperor. But you may have heard me mention in a previous video, a friend of a friend's brother gave me this cassette tape, and that's where I heard a lot of other bands for the first time, so including Beherit, and Dark Funeral was one of those bands too. So I remember on this tape, the first Dark Funeral song I ever heard was My Dark Desires, and yeah, that made an impression on me when I first heard it, and it was shortly after that, like a few months, that I saw the Dark Funeral Secrets of the Black Arts video clip, and that was quite striking as well, because I'd never seen a black metal video clip like that. So pretty much, yeah, that's where my interest started, and I've been a fan all along. So they're probably, in terms of black metal, one of my favorite bands. Like, just as I've mentioned before, a staple band. I've always listened to them, and very reliable for this kind of music, I think. Again, some people may disagree with me, but yeah, that's just my opinion. So I'm going to go into this now. So before I talk about the 6 full-length albums, I'm going to talk about the mini album, which is not in the ranking. So this is Dark Funeral with In the Sign. So most of you probably already know this, but this album was actually a re-recording or remake of their debut self-titled mini album, which came out in 1994. That contains 4 tracks, which are Open the Gates, Shadows over Transylvania, My Dark Desires, and In the Sign of the Horns. So excellent mini album, like really, I know it's not a debut album, but like Celtic Frost, they released it as a mini album. I think it's just a brilliant beginning release, like just amazing. Like, what I like about this release is, in comparison to later albums where they tended to go much faster and blast all the time, like this album, this particular mini album, it has a lot of really memorable melodic riffs, and each song stands apart very strongly, and like there's just some fantastic atmospheric and powerful moments on this album. So yeah, of those 4 songs, like they're all brilliant. So but I really have great nostalgic memories of the song Open the Gates, and yeah, My Dark Desires is the first song I heard, but like Shadows over Transylvania is a brilliant song, such great riffing in that song. In the Sign of the Horns, it goes kind of symphonic with the thunderous drumming, but yeah, there's so much atmosphere on this album. So the difference is, you can see there's 6 tracks here. So with In the Sign, they also included 2 bonus tracks, 2 Bathory covers, which were Equimanthorn and Call from the Grave, both great covers. If you've heard me talk about Bathory before, you'll know that they're 2 of my favorite Bathory songs. So yeah, it's good to have those on here. The production's very good, a lot cleaner than Bathory, but like, yeah, it's really good atmosphere. Just show you the disc itself. So it's mirroring the cover pretty much. And this artwork is different to the original, the self-titled mini album. And what I like about this, it's got a really cool graphic layout, all of the band members, and lyrics which are nice and readable. Yeah, and just some photos from the early days. Yeah, so even though this is a mini album, I would say it is an essential release by Dark Funeral. Like, brilliant, 10 out of 10. The lineup for this album was Lord Ahriman and Black Moon on guitars. Black Moon, rest in peace. Themgaroth on bass and lead vocals, and a guy called Draugen on drums. And on that note, the drumming on this particular release, it's got a very raw sound, but like just these drum beats that he does, like they're kind of simplistic when they're mid-pace, but like they're just so incredibly catchy. So like I always find when I'm listening to this, I'm just air drumming along to it, like brilliant drumming. So yeah, fantastic release, the re-recording of the debut mini album plus some bonus tracks. That's Dark Funeral with In the Sign. All right, so now getting to the actual full-length albums. Okay, so yeah, ranking from my least favorite to my most favorite. So the band has 6 full-length albums, and we'll just get straight into it. Okay, so with the first one, if you've seen previous videos of mine, you'll know this one's coming. Coming in last at number 6 is Attera, Totus, Sanctus. So just take, cover is broken. Great start. Okay, so this album came out in 2006, and it was the band's 4th full-length album at the time, and it came out just after Diabolis Interium, which was released in 2001. So I remember when I first bought this, as soon as it came out, I was really excited to hear it, and to be honest, it fell short of my expectations. I found this album a little bit disappointing at the time, if I'm being completely honest. So I forgot to also mention that with Dark Funeral, they've never really released a bad album. So there's always, in every album, including this one, there's always a few tracks which are worthwhile, but I think this was the first album I heard by them which I didn't like completely. So that's what set it apart from the others. But yeah, now it's very much Dark Funeral style, like fast riffing, blast beat drumming, screamy vocals and everything. So all of those elements of Dark Funeral are there if you're familiar with the sound. So you hear it and go, yes, it is Dark Funeral, but I think the reason why this one falls short for me is just it's got the least amount of memorable songs. So yeah, I remember it, like until recently, I think I'd heard this album less than 10 times or something like that. And recently I've been giving it a lot more time just to see if I'm missing anything, but yeah, still doesn't grab me that much. But having said that, there are some really good songs. So let's just talk about the production first of all. Like, yeah, the sound it's pretty good. Like everything's clear, but it's got a kind of dry production in comparison to the other albums. So yeah, just maybe the production sounded a little bit flat to me. And yeah, some songs are just not memorable. Like the song Feed on the Mortals, for example. Like, it's not a bad song, but can I remember how it goes? Not at all. There are also some other tracks where there's some parts of the song that I like, whereas in other sections there's aspects where I go, it doesn't work so well for me, like as a listener. And again, that's just my opinion. But those songs where like I find some of them half good are King Antichrist, God Hates, and 666 Voices Inside. Like, not bad songs, but not completely good to me either. So let's just cut to the chase and get to the songs I really do like. So track 3, the title track, Attera, Totus, Sanctus, like very meaty, heavy guitar riff, which is very dark and atmospheric. So that is a standout track for me, for sure. Also Atrium Regina, which is like a slower track. So it's got this melancholic sort of atmosphere. So it's not just blasting all the time. And that one stands out as well. I find the lyrics of that song a little bit crass, maybe, but that's just me. The other track, which is very good though, is Angel Flesh Impaled. Like, that's where I get that nostalgic feeling from the earlier albums. Like, oh yeah, that's the sound I really like by them. Like, very memorable melodies and memorable chorus as well. Oh, speaking of which, Caligula's vocals on this, I've heard a lot of people complain about them, saying they're too sort of screamy and like kind of thing, but I actually really like them. I think they fit this album really well. So yeah, that's a good one. And then Final Ritual, that is a good atmospheric song, especially at the end where it's got this melody which just builds and builds like it's some portal to transcension to another world or something like that. So it's got that really powerful atmosphere at the end. Having said that, I find that when I listen to that song, I'm really just waiting for that part at the end. So yeah, you can see with this album, certainly not all bad, but I do have mixed feelings about it. So just to recap, the songs that I really like on it are Attera, Totus, Sanctus, Atrium Regina, Angel Flesh Impaled, and Final Ritual. So yeah, 4 out of 8. And with the other ones, as I said, they're not all bad, but they just don't quite grab me in the same way that the other albums do. Okay, so I'll just show you the booklet quickly. So you've got the lineup here, Lord Araman, Caligula on vocals, so he stopped playing bass on this album, and it was taken over by someone else. This guy, Matti Mordin, is that his name? Yeah, Matti Mordin, former drummer of Defleshed, I think, an absolute maniac on the drums, like a super fast, blasting, like this guy is like an M16, human machine gun, like the way he drums is just brilliant. I think he could be their best drummer, but let me get to that because there's another one who's also very good. This was also the first album to feature Chuck Moll on second guitar after Black Moon had left the band. And, what was I going to say? Yeah, and he stayed with the band till this day. So there you go. So booklet's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, it's a decent album, but like in comparison to the others, it just doesn't grab me all of the time, 100%. So maybe you disagree, but if you haven't heard it, definitely worth a listen for those tracks that I mentioned alone. So that's Attera, Totus, Sanctus. Okay, up next, coming in at number 5. Angelus Exuro Pro Eternus. Let me check I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yes. All right, so if you're not familiar, this is the album which came out straight after Attera, Totus, Sanctus. This is 2009. I'll tell you something about this album. At the time, because I was disappointed with Attera, Totus, Sanctus, I left it a very long time to buy this. In fact, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't even give this album a chance at the beginning because I'd been kind of turned off by the previous release. But what I did do a few years later was I listened to some of the songs and went, oh, okay, actually they're pretty good. Yeah, some of them. So very recently, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, I bought this just to round off the collection. And so I've always been familiar with the songs, but I finally have it in the collection and I'm pleased about that. So this one is a definite improvement on Attera, Totus, Sanctus, in my opinion. The production is better. You can hear the bass more. It's just, yeah, better mix in my opinion. And yeah, still excellent musicianship from all of the members of the band. I think it's the same lineup. So they got an official bass player for this album. So in a way, it's sort of like the sister album of Attera, Totus, Sanctus. You can even tell by the color and the artwork. But as I said, a marked improvement on that previous release. So this one is definitely more memorable in terms of songs, except once again, for me, this is an album which I find there's a lot of, not forgettable, but songs which are not as memorable. So case in point, like the first 2 tracks, The End of the Human Race and The Birth of the Vampire, by no means bad tracks, but if someone said, oh, how did they go? You know, sing the melody, I wouldn't know, you know, because they don't stand out that much. But having said that, there's quite a few more standout tracks on this album, like cutting straight to the chase, my favorite tracks on the album, tracks 3 and 4. So track 3, Stigmata, a very haunting riff and that like plodding double bass drumming and like the dark vocals chanting and everything, like that is a standout track. Stigmata, great song. Also My Funeral, this was the one that they released as a single and made a video clip for, I think, and it's one of those songs where it's like that sort of slow haunting riffing, but very catchy as well, so that's a great one. The other song which I think is very good is Demons of Five. Like with the interplay between the vocals and the music, it stands out a lot, and with some memorable lyrics as well from Caligula in that, and that's actually a really good one. So that's one that's captured me a lot lately. Also, Declaration of Hate is a good song. And In My Dreams is one where they slow down again, and then they finish up with My Latex Queen, which is like Atrium Regina, Goddess of Sodomy Part 3, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, overall, much better than the previous album, in my opinion. But yeah, it's still not one where I would say I enjoy it from beginning to end. I enjoy certain moments and certain songs on it. But definitely worth checking out for those songs I mentioned. So Stigmata, My Funeral, Demons of Five, Declaration of Hate, they would be my favorite tracks. Okay, So just showing you the booklet, as always, cool art layout. And yeah, lyrics are readable as well, as in large enough for me to read. Yeah. So as I said, same lineup as the previous album, except they got B-Force as the official bass player. And I always have this the wrong way. Yeah, there's the disc. And this was the one, I think, yeah, you see it in the video, but this is the one where Caligula started adorning that really crazy skeletal mask, like looking like a skull, which was kind of scary and, you know, kind of atmospheric, definitely. So, yes, a definite improvement from the previous album. This is Dark Funeral with Angelus, Exuro Pro Eternus. Okay, so they're two of the albums, and now the next albums are the ones which I like all the way from beginning to end. So this is really stepping into the realms of what I consider to be like the brilliant albums by this band. Okay, so again, remember it's my list, so if you disagree, let me know why. Coming in at number 4, Vobiscum Satanas from 1998. Okay, when this album first came out, I bought it pretty soon after, and I listened to it obsessively. So it really brings back a lot of memories of that time. Like I was only 20 years old at the time. Yeah, and yeah, really enjoyed this album a lot. Like at the time I was already familiar with Marduk, and they were my favorite Swedish black metal band, and then this band was like, when I heard this album, it's like, oh, they're rivaling Marduk in terms of their speed and extremity. Like really amazing stuff. Cool book layout as well. Now with this one, you'll see I've actually mislaid the disc, but I have it on vinyl, so that's lucky. But yeah, by the way, I'm just showing CDs in this particular video because with the vinyls, I'll save for a black metal vinyl video. Yeah, so this was one where after the original lineup of Ahriman, Black Moon, Themgaroth, and Equimanthorn from Secrets of the Black Arts, basically every member left except Ahriman. So Black Moon had been asked to leave, and yeah, don't know what happened with everyone else, but it was just like a renewed lineup. So this one, it was Ahriman on guitars, and then who was Caligula? So first album with Caligula on bass and vocals, and then on guitars, Typhos, and drums, Alzazmon. And it's funny, apart from Caligula and Ahriman, this was just a one-time lineup. So those other guys were on it for just this album, and then they left. But yeah, this album, as I said, it's really where they've stepped up the extremity compared to earlier releases, where they were just like hyper blasting the whole way, like super fast riffs and really aggressive drums and vocals. So it's pretty much a no holds barred, chaotic, relentless onslaught. But when I say chaotic, it's controlled chaos because everything's perfectly in time. What's interesting about this album is it's very different to their previous album, The Secrets of the Black Arts, in the sense that it sounds a lot more symphonic is not the right word, but I heard people compare this to Emperor a little bit. Surprisingly, you might be saying, what the hell? But actually, with those just like super fast melodic riffs, it created this atmosphere sometimes where it almost sounded like there were synthesizers being used. But as Ahriman has repeatedly stated, they've never used them, so they create this atmosphere through the guitars. So with that ambience, you have this almost symphonic kind of sound, which, yeah, it is very, very good. Now, what I used to say about this album, that my favorite tracks were the odd-numbered tracks, like, so 1, 3, 5, and then after that 8. But to be honest, I really do like the whole album. So the title track, just going in order from least favorite to most favorite, the title track, Vobiscum Satanas, that has some like low guttural vocals instead of the raspy high-pitched shrieks. And yeah, it's not a bad song, except it's one that's never really stood out to me that much. But having said that, whenever I listen to it, I'm always singing along to it. Also, the other ones, tracks 2 and 4, Enriched by Evil and Evil Prevail. I used to not really find those standout tracks, except the reason is they're very sort of complex riffs, so they're not like what you would call catchy songs. You have to listen carefully to get your head around those, but actually, for that reason, they've grown on me more. Like, Enriched by Evil has got some great riffing, especially in the chorus. Evil Prevail has got some really complex riffing at the beginning of the song as well, and also like the bridge where they do the up, down, high, low riffs. It's very, very catchy, so they're good songs. The Black Winged Horde is a very catchy song as well, like especially the chorus, definitely, to me, a sing-along chorus. But my absolute favourite tracks on the album, here we go. Track 1, Ravenous Strigoi Morti, just a classic song. Very sort of catchy and bouncy and symphonic sounding. Yep, so that's great, and like just memorable moments in that song. Also track 3, Thy Legions Come, just brilliant. Again, very bouncy, catchy chorus, and you know, it sticks in your head. Also track 5, possibly my favorite song on the album, Slava Satan. Like that song is just like super chaotic and fast and really dark and sinister sounding, and just a great chorus. Like it's a sort of like empowering song to listen to actually, so that's fantastic. Also track 8, Ineffable King of Darkness, just a great closing track. No nonsense, like really menacing sounding riffs, and just blasting right till the end. So some people might say this album's a bit monotonous, like but having said that, there are some mid-paced sections in it, so don't think it's just like blasting 100% of the time, but maybe 85-90% of the time. But yeah, the songs are still memorable. In comparison to those other albums that I've just talked about, pretty much every song on this album is memorable. So it is a classic, and I still enjoy listening to it. That's Vobiscum Satanas from 1998. Okay. Alright, so this is where it might get controversial, because people always have their ideas about, you know, how the ranking should be in terms of what is classic and what is essential, but remember, it's all subjective. So, might surprise some people, maybe not. Okay. Coming in at number 3, Secrets of the Black Arts, or The Secrets of the Black Arts. So this is the band's debut album from 1996, debut full length. Of course, it is a classic. Like, this is where it all started officially. Nice layout. You see on this album, it was that original lineup, so Black Moon, Araman, Themgaroth, and Equimanthorn, replacing Draugen on drums. I do like the layout. That's a really cool shot. And I like, they give them sort of a stage name and titles, like Araman, the Lord of Destruction, Evil, Darkness, and Death guitars. Equimanthorn, Commander of the Infernal Demon Legions drums. You know, it's very theatrical, but yeah, kind of cool. Yeah, so this album, it includes 2 re-recorded songs from the mini album, which I talked about, the debut mini. They are My Dark Desires and Shadows over Transylvania. Now with this, I think the re-recording on this version of My Dark Desires, I like it more because it sounds deeper and darker and more epic. To be honest, the version of Shadows over Transylvania, I prefer the original debut one, but yeah, both very good songs on this anyway. This one has a much cleaner production than the debut mini album, in a good way, and I remember actually they recorded this song at Unisound, recorded this album at Unisound Studios with Dan Swano, but apparently the mix, they weren't happy with the mix, so then they re-recorded it in Abyss Studios with Peter Tugtran, who became their ongoing producer for all the other albums that I've mentioned. So this one, how would I describe it? It's like very fast and blasting Swedish black metal, fast riffs, blast beats, screamy vocals, but again they have those mid-pace sections and breakdowns where it's a little bit more catchy, you know, so there is some variety, and like some of the melodies, the guitar melodies on this album are just brilliant. Like this album I know back to front, I know every single song so well, and like pretty much the whole album. So again, going from least favorite to most favorite songs, the one song which I don't really like all that much on this album is track 10, Satanic Blood. That is a cover of the cult underground band Von, or Von, do you give it the German pronunciation? I'm not sure, but now no disrespect to that band because I know they have a cult following, but to be honest, if I'm brutally honest, I just find that song boring because it's repetitive. Like it's that riff like nah, 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 nah. After you hear it 10 times you go, okay, yeah, maybe that's enough of that, but they just play it 300 times. It's just that riff does not change for the whole song, and it's got these sort of guttural snarling vocals, but just a song where it's just one riff repeated constantly. Yeah, I find it quite boring, so I think that cover belongs in the bin, to be honest. And I've heard this band cover other bands really well, so I don't know why they chose that song, but that's the only one I don't particularly like. Yeah, so bit of variety on this one though. So like some ones sort of like mid-tier songs which I enjoy are Where Angels Forever Die and Dark Are the Parts to Eternity, A Summoning Nocturnal. Not some of my favorites though, so let's get into my favorites. So yeah, The Secrets of the Black Arts, they made the video clip of this song, like absolutely brilliant. Like when that song reaches the climax with those guitar melodies where it's like Lord Bring Us Damnation, like that riff is just so good. And it's like I'm always waiting for that part in the song. It's just brilliant. So like they're showing that they've got that awesome grip on evil sounding melody in that song. Also The Dawn No More Rises, like very memorable melodies and chorus in that song, and like great thunderous drumming and some chanted vocals as well, which I always sing along to, and just some crazy drum fills on that song, like brilliant. The Dawn No More Rises. Also The Fire Eternal, great song, like very memorable chorus again, and just these standout moments which I'm craving. So yeah, they're really good. Satan's Mayhem is also an interesting track because that's when they go a bit slower and more atmospheric, which is a little bit different for them because they're usually playing at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but it's got these chanted vocals again, it's got this kind of dreamy atmosphere, so there is some variety on the album. Now, another really good track for me is Blood Frozen, which was co-written by Black Moon and Araman, like just very haunting melancholic riffs on that song, and like when it's just got that unforgettable start where the drums kick in and the screams are just so good. And I really like the melodies in that song, and also the lyrics really stand out, and it's just got such a dramatic ending as well. So Blood Frozen is absolutely brilliant. So this is one of the albums which has been a part of me for a long time, since like 96 or something, and it never gets old to me, that's for sure. So yeah, pretty much all killer, no filler, with the exception of the cover song, in my opinion. But just to recap, my favorite tracks on this would be The Secrets of the Black Arts, The Dawn No More Rises, The Fire Eternal, Satan's Mayhem, and Blood Frozen. So brilliant album, absolutely essential for Swedish black metal. If you haven't heard it, check it out. That's The Secrets of the Black Arts from 1996. Okay, so getting interesting now. We're down to the last two. So let me tell you about the last two albums. I deliberated for a long time. I'm pretty sure I know which one is my favorite, but I have to check. And that's interesting. Like before you do these ranking discographies videos, you think you have an idea of what's going to be the order, but then you listen to them and you can change your mind sometimes. With these last two, I kept changing. I didn't know. And then after a lot of deliberation and a final listen, I made my decision. So it's probably going to be controversial, but yeah, that's what makes it interesting. So very, very close, these ones, but only one can be the best. Okay, so coming in at number 2, drum roll, Diabolis Interium from 2001. Now, let me tell you about this. This was hands down my absolute favorite album, for sure, until another certain album came out. This one came out in 2001 after Vobiscum Satanas. At that time, when it came out, it was the best album to date, in my opinion. Like, absolutely brilliant, this one. With this one, it was a changed lineup again, so still Caligula and Araman as the core members. Also, they got a new guy called Dominion on guitar who only played on this album, and this was the first album to feature Matti Mordin from Defleshed, who was, like, as I said, human M16, like incredibly insane drummer, like so incredibly blastingly fast, it's out of control, but is in control because it's in time. But anyway, what I love about this album is that it's super fast, super chaotic, but everything is absolutely precise. And also the riffing on this, like, it's just got the most striking guitar melodies ever. So like these melodies you hum along to, you sing along to, in my opinion, because they're so damn catchy. Like every single song, that's what the riffs are like. And yeah, the production is great. It's very crisp. You can hear the guitar melodies clearly. The vocals are mixed in very well. The drums have really got this crisp blasting sound. Perfect, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's what I'll say about this one. It's like a combination between very aggressive and also very melodic, which is interesting. But for that reason, I think the songs are, you know, so incredibly memorable. Like, this album is pretty much all killer, no filler, 8 tracks. There are no tracks I dislike. The only thing is, track 5, The Apprentice of Satan, that was the one which they released on there as a single or EP in year 2000. That is a very good song with a variety of tempos. The only thing is I find that it starts to wander and it drags on a bit towards the end in the slower part, but maybe that's just me. But overall, still a very good song. And I remember actually when I saw them live in 2000 at Wacken, it was the lineup from this album. It was great, and I remember even when they played that song live, I felt, yeah, it drags on a bit. But no disrespect to the band, because they're one of my favorites. But the rest of this album, absolutely brilliant. So you've got The Arrival of Satan's Empire, the first track. Like, the riffs in that, just awesome. Like, Riff City, so memorable, so melodic. It's fantastic. Hail Murder has got such a memorable chorus and guitar melody in that song. Track 3, Goddess of Sodomy, that was the first slow song that the band ever recorded, actually, where they really slowed it down, sort of like made it a heavy atmospheric track. And so it's got some powerful sort of double bass drumming in that, and it features Dark Funeral's first guitar solo as well, which is very good. So I think they were trying to change it up and say, okay, let's slow down and try something different. And it's actually very good because it invokes a dark atmosphere, that song. Title track, Diabolis Interium, is great. Like, again, just striking melodies on that song. As I mentioned, An Apprentice of Satan is brilliant as well. Apart from towards the end, I think it drags a bit. Now, Thus I Have Spoken, just the opening slow, heavy riff in that is just so strikingly memorable again. And then they speed up when they go into full throttle. It's just out of control. It's awesome. And then possibly my favorite track on the album, Armageddon Finally Comes. Again, just brilliant riffing in that song, just non-stop chaotic blasting. And again, those riffs, they stick in your head. The main riff of that song is so good. And it really does invoke that atmosphere of like the pillars of heaven shaking or empires crumbling or something like it. I remember when I was jogging once, I was listening to that song and it was about to rain, the skies were going really dark and it was windy, and I go, oh, it's the perfect atmosphere. So Armageddon Finally Comes. Oh, and when it's blasting, but sometimes they break down into these mid-pace sections, and like the drumming, it's like very simplistic mid-pace drumming, but it's just so catchy, it really stands out. And then they also finished with another great song, Heart of Ice, which is just melancholic and dark. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I think this is pretty much a perfect record. So just showing you the disc. So there we have it. Yep, really cool art direction on this one. So it's Caligula and Araman. And so this was the one-time guitarist Dominion. And first album to feature Matthew Morden with his brilliant drumming. But yeah, I would say this album is pretty much all killer, no filler. Until the next album I'm talking about came out, this was definitely my favorite. If you haven't heard this album, it's essential that you check it out. If you like fast, aggressive black metal, Swedish black metal, and you haven't heard it for some reason. So just to recap my favorite songs, The Arrival of Satan's Empire, Armageddon Finally Comes, and Heart of Ice, I think. But pretty much every song is brilliant. So that's Dark Funeral with Diabolis Interium. So, if you're familiar with Dark Funeral's discography, you will know what's coming next. Perhaps a controversial choice, but here we go. That is, of course, Where Shadows Forever Reign. Interesting, isn't it? This is the most recent album to date by the band. So this one was released in 2016. I'm surprised because it's very rare, if you think about it, or like most of the bands that I listen to, it's very rare that I say a band's most recent album is the best. But after much deliberation and listening to this one and Diabolis Interium, yeah, I have to say this one is my favorite. Now, some people might say, oh, maybe it's just newer and more exciting for you. But this has been out for 5 years now, and my opinion hasn't changed. So, yeah, I stand by it. Just a fantastic album. Okay, what makes this album stand out above all others? First of all 8 tracks. I love all 8 tracks. They're really good. What stands out about this album is the production. So this album has so much depth. You can actually hear the bass audibly. Nothing is too high or low in the mix. You can hear the drums really clearly, but they're not drowning everything out. You can hear the vocals clearly. You can hear everything. So it's just like a much better overall sound. And like, when I listened to Diabolis Interium after this, it sounded quite thin, which I thought, wow, I never thought I would say that. But yeah, production is just second to none on this album. Also, they experiment with a lot more atmospheres. So yes, it's still Dark Funeral, but they don't want to be stale. Like, they're experimenting with different ideas while retaining their core sound. Like, you hear they use some clean guitars, they use some sort of like slower riffs in it, and some more sort of different variety of emotions, like not just evil sounding riffs all the time, but sometimes like a melancholy and sadness, like in that song As I Ascend. So and just some really interesting time signatures. Songwriting is brilliant. Also, this was the album to feature new vocalist, I can never pronounce his name, and I probably won't even when I'm reading it. What's his name? Hell Yamada. I'm not sure, yeah. But yeah, so this was his first album with the band. His vocals on it are absolutely amazing. Again, this may sound controversial, and no disrespect to Caligula, but I think Hyeljama is the best vocalist this band has ever had. What I like about it is his vocal style is really razor sharp, and you can actually tell what he's saying. So he enunciates his words clearly. Without a lyric sheet, you can actually understand him. So, which is different to previous Dark Funeral singers. And also, the lyrics he writes are really good as well, because I find they match the music so well, and they tell a story really well, and it just completes the puzzle. Absolutely amazing. So, yeah, 9 tracks on this are really good. So let's go into it. Unchain My Soul, brilliant opening track with some clean guitars, very epic and haunting song. So like a brilliant call to battle with that song. As One We Shall Conquer, that's showing the band going into like full blast territory and everything. By the way, the drummer on this album was Dominator. He was absolutely phenomenal. Like, between him and Matty Mordin, I'm not sure who is a better drummer, but like, they're both very close. Like, he's brilliant. And also the way the drums are produced, they just sound really thunderous and heavy on this. So As One We Shall Conquer, it's thunderous and blasting, but you can still hear all the riffs clearly, which is great. Beast Above Man, unbelievably good song. Just so aggressive and like razor sharp riffs, razor sharp vocals. It is brilliant. As I Ascend, I said that's one where they're sort of exploring different emotional territory, where it's a bit sort of like sad and melancholic, but at the same time, when they have those riffs in the middle of the song, they're just really striking and evil sounding, you know, and like and very melodic, so it's great. Now, Temple of Ahriman, track 5, that has got some just interesting experimental kind of riffs in that song. Like, it's not a typical blasting black metal song. But like the chorus, like with the vocals and the riffs, it is just so memorable. It really is. And so that makes it a very catchy song. The Eternal Eclipse, oh my god, brilliant. Like, you know, the riffing in that song, it's just so melancholic. It captures that spirit of black metal so well, with the thunderous drumming just blasting constantly in the background, but these melodies riding over it. It is so good. That song is a killer song, the Eternal Eclipse. Track 7, To Carve Another Wound, possibly my favorite track on the album. Like, just really menacing, haunting, evil-sounding riffing in that song. Interesting rhythms, and just, again, with the vocals and the lyrics which match it, it just completes this perfect puzzle, paints a perfect picture of a really dark, sinister song. So that is brilliant. To Carve Another Wound, fantastic. Then track 8 is Nail Them to the Cross. That was the song which they released as a single before this album is coming out. But when it first came out, that song, I remember I thought, yeah, it's pretty good, but it actually has grown on me a lot. Like, it's great. Like, the chorus is very memorable. Like, that's a sort of slower, catchier song again, and the vocals in it are so good. And then it's amazing, like a bit like Marduk, they shift from these slow and groovy parts to just like blasting chaos, but like with consummate ease, and it's really good. So I love that song. Also, track 9, Where Shadows Forever Reign, the title track. That was one that didn't grab me so much at the beginning, but then I go, damn it, that subtly grew on me. Like, I'm always finding myself like singing along to the riffs and the vocals in that song. So a very good closing song, like a very sort of typical Dark Funeral song to close the album. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Now I'll just show you the disc. So this is the cover, and it's this kind of fold out picture. So you see here, it's quite elaborate. So this folds out into, you get the picture into an inverted cross. Yeah, But yeah, really nice art direction on this album. Everything's about it is perfect. Interestingly, this was Lord Araman played bass on this album, but I think they've got a new guy on bass now for the new album coming up. But yeah, this one really, when it first came out, I thought it was the best, and then it stood the test of time. Like 5 years is a long time, but in my opinion, it still is the best album. So if you haven't heard this one, I know a lot of people might be saying, oh yeah, you know, only the classic albums, I don't listen to the newer stuff. You're doing yourself a great disservice if you don't give this album a chance. Fantastic. 10 out of 10, a perfect album in my opinion. So that's Where Shadows Forever Reign in 2016. Okay, so believe it or not guys, that's the end, and I'm sure people are relieved about that because I've been rambling on for long enough. So that completes the Dark Funeral discography. So that's my ranking. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree. If you disagree, let me know why. Yeah, and that'd be cool. Please, no hate, respect people's opinions, of course, but yeah, it's always good to generate some discussion. On that note, Dark Funeral have just completed recording their new album, so I can't wait to hear that. And they said the drumming in that is supposed to be faster than ever. I think that they have a new guy, but really, this is a very hotly anticipated release for me. I can't wait to hear that. So yeah, Dark Funeral, Black Metal Legends, every album is worth checking out, but I think you know the ones I like more. The ranking of discography speaks for itself. So thanks very much guys for watching, if you made it through this far. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Cheers.